Hey, y'all, what's up? It's Balcony coming to do some content about the houses and astrology. Now, when I first got introduced to houses, it was much later in my process, because I think that's just the first thing you get, introduced to. It's like, what's your sign? What's your name? What's your sign? As soon as I buy that wine, right? We want to get to know each other, and that's the easiest thing to point to astrologically. So the houses came much later for many of us. Um, but I like the houses, right? Because you really get to understand where each zodiac is kind of coming from, right? Like, what's your set, basically, what you claim, right? There's 12 houses, just like we have the 12 zodiacs. And I think, too, the houses kind of tells a story collectively of our creative process, right? Like, each sign has a specific focus in that process, right? But the collective story is coming together to talk about how we all create. We all have different aspects of the different zodiacs within our personality by way of the house system, right? So you may not have Aries in your chart natally, but you may have, of course, you will have a house that is influenced by the energy of Aries. So houses are very, it's got a lot of information there. I'll say that. So we'll go ahead and begin with this. Let's talk about this process, and then we'll talk a bit about the zodiacs that are in them. First house, first things first. I papas, freaks, all the honeys, okay? What you're doing is what you're doing in your first house, right? This is the appearance. It's really big on identity, individuality, what you yourself are doing, right? You'll have other times when you're going to be focused on the group activities, but this is for you. This one's for you. This is Aries energy. So this is cardinal fire. Here we're going to be initiating what we ourselves want to create, period. And it's a snapshot of that as well. So this is overall the appearance of what you're doing. The second through the 12th houses all are in support of what you're doing in your first house. So the collective story is, this is the snapshot, right? What you doing? Getting a new job. What you doing? Losing some weight. What you doing? Going to a party, right? Whatever you got going on, the first house is the snapshot of that. Whether you're buying an outfit for the party, right? Appearance, okay? What do you want to look like? This is what the first house is pretty much getting us to investigate. Whatever you're creating, the appearance, the mannerisms, characteristics, all those things, first house. Now, it is just appearances, right? So it's not that deep, right? You can't really judge a book by its cover, but you can definitely get an idea of the content that'll be there, right? First house is straight for that. Aries is here, so you have the ability to spontaneously go into this because it's like a spark, and they're very fiery. It's a very fiery energy, right? It can also lead to being a tad bit impulsive, right? But when you gotta go, right? This energy is also very active. And it's a motivated energy too, right? So I would say it's a very courageous placement of this is why courage really resides in Aries, right? Because they just gotta go, they just gotta get it done, and they realize the time to strike is now. So this is where we all go in our first house. We also have the planet Mars here, so it's here to motivate us as well. So quick snapshot, first house is where you're going to for appearances, and this is why Aries are very active, ready to go, right? Ready to get it started, a tad bit spontaneous, or can be seen as impulsive sometimes in their actions, but nonetheless, they are honoring what it is by way of appearances. They actually identify with what they want to do. This is what your first house is about. Now, what your second house is about, right? That's the snapshot. Your second house comes up to tell you why you value it. Whatever you're creating is close to your values at the beginning of it, because you want to either possess it, you want to acquire it. You may spend some valuables on acquiring it. Because let's face it, if you want to start a website, it's going to cost you money, right? So this is a money house, right? If you want to transform your body, it's going to cost you what you value, which might be your time to put in the work to exercise. Or you may have to also, value eating healthier, right? But it's something that you need to materialize here in order to get you there, right? Fire, which is the first house, needs something materially to burn on, right? And you're burning through your wallet. Basically, right? Whatever you value towards the situation, it's going to cost you. So that's spirit saying that. But the second house with Taurus energy here is about fixating on the things that you want to materialize, right? Shout out to the Taurus people. This is why they are very fixated on a coin. Taurus is about the cash. They're about the comforts in life, right? Because you have Venus here. So Venus likes to be comfortable. It's a comfortable planet. We're comfortable with the things that we love, right? Um, so it's about security here as well. But any idea that you find that's comforting, anything that's material that you can manifest that you find that would be helpful towards the overall idea, it's going to be in support of it. So there's value, right? So Taurus is about how we value things. And it's the first time we see Earth, right? And the first time you see a tree, it's just a tree, right? It's not, it don't really move, right? That's a great way to describe Earth. Earth isn't moving until somebody moves it, okay? And this is your values. What you value is hard to be moved, period. Okay? That's spirit. So, but that's how it is too when you're creating something by way of our process, right? If I want to do this, if I want to change my body, right, it's got to be something that I truly value, because it takes a lot to change your physical body, right? Depending on the effort that you want to put into it, right? But just the process of going through it, right? It's going to take some grit. And this is where you're kind of getting the grit from, right? I'm doing it based off the appearance of it, but why I'm doing it, why I'm really going to dig my heels into this, is because I would love to see this happen. I value it, right? And this is where we go to the second house. Now, when it comes to the third house of the process, we're going to be communicating with the immediate environment. Now it's time to talk about what's going on. What's tea? Okay. This will help us understand, like, if we excursion locally, what the environment is going to look like. What's the landscape of it, right? If you're new to modeling, let me talk to some people who are already here in the industry. Now, I can't talk to Heidi Klum, right? I don't have access to it, right? If, maybe you're a model. Maybe you do, right? If you can talk to her and she's in your environment, shout out. Your career looking real promising already. But, if you can't get her on the hotline, then you can go ahead and just talk to who you can, right? So maybe you have an aunt who is in the industry, or a cousin who does it, right? So people in your immediate environment, this is also siblings, but this is also Gemini energy, right? Some of the first people you communicate with is your brothers and sisters, right? The people who you can talk to immediately that's around. But this is also about being curious in your nature, getting intel, observing what's going on. This is what Gemini supports, right? So this would be the third house that we visit on our way to completing our journey, in the third house. So I know what I'm doing. I value it. I'm learning some things. Now let me set up my foundation in my fourth house. This is home. This is roots. This is Cancer's energy, right? This is why Cancers are sometimes very private type people, but they're so nurturing and caring, right? But they have this ability too to be very reflective, because in the fourth house with the moon being here, it's time to reflect on the foundation, right? Foundations aren't really being seen like that. So it doesn't, it's comfortable with the privacy. However, the fourth house is necessary, right? Because you got to have a good foundation if you're going to build upon something, right? And this is what it's reminding us of. With the nurturer here, with the maternal energy, you can really reflect on what needs to be done foundationally, right? That's what mom's advice is good for. That good foundational, like, baby, I can't live your life for you, but I can tell you this is what's going, it's reflecting on kind of the fundamentals, right? And you pour into the things fundamentally. Fundamentally, this was the idea here, right? This is like that good feeling connection. I like the fourth house energy. Like I say, anything that you're going to build and structure, you got to make sure you have a solid foundation on. And shout out to the fourth house. This is where we do this and we can pour into something, right? Typically a pretty private matter, right? But once we get that foundation going, we find the sense of security to know that the lineage that's here to support it has good roots, right? So this is your fourth house where you're first pouring into it with the water energy of Cancer, right? So far we've seen all the elements: fire, earth, air, water. The fire we created with helped us materialize our value, which then we had thoughts about, right? Let me talk to some people based off my values. Maybe so-and-so got something for me. Maybe this person over here has something for me, right? Now, how do you feel about all of that? That's what the house is saying. How do I feel about all this now that I'm going through this process, right? Does it feel like something foundationally I can stand on? If the answer is yes, you go back into your fire again. in the fifth house and go ham at creating it. This is where you're creating because it feel fucking good to do it, okay? Now, be careful in this fifth house because sometimes it just feel good to cuss a motherfucker out. It's authentic expression, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to be careful, right? Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you be like, to somebody I care about, let me not cuss their ass out right now, But the fifth house is explosions in a big way. It's bonfire energy. It's really what you can be seen when it comes to your creativity, right? So in your first house, it was like, I got to get this started. This is appearances, right? And the appearance of a coconut is completely different from what's on the inside of it, right? Just off glance, right? But this is like fifth house. So this is like really going ham at creating it and expressing it and enjoying the radiance and its authentic nature, right? This is what feels good about anything that you do. It's an authentic connection to it, right? Where you're really getting to radiate in what it actually is and the essence of it. And that's what it is when it comes to our creativity, right? Whatever I aim to do from my first house, when I'm at my fifth house, when I'm in the creative portion of it, where I'm just going ham at it, right? It makes me feel good to finally get to this point, right? Remember, you had to get to the money, talking to folks, filling it out. Now you just get to enjoy yourself. And this is what Leo's energy is all about. We know these are fun people. It's a fun time. It's a very active time of the year when we're in the middle of the summer, right? It's the hottest time of the year. Get the longest days of the year. So Leo is very prideful. It's very devoted, right? All the fixed house energy is very devoted, but here we're devoted towards enjoying ourselves because in creating something, creative expression, enjoying ourselves because we love it, right? Shout out to the Leo energy. It's a very generous energy, but it can sometimes get a little sensitive here, especially if you can't create the things that make you feel good. Yeah, that nice little roar can turn into like, oh shit, right? So it can be really big sometimes, right? So that's why I just say be careful with the energy. But this is where we go to in our process to go ham at creating it again, right? Now we're fixated on what we're going to create, right? But, let's say what you created wasn't so refined. Let's just say you had a grand old good time doing it, but it was a little wild, right? Well, Virgo's here to help you refine it. So shout out to your Virgo friends, all right? And check on them. Because Virgo's asses be worried. We think a lot. Okay, this is my sun sign. So, of course, I'm familiar with Virgo energy, but this is about being supportive towards what you're creating, right? To make sure it's useful, efficient, to make sure it can be of service and the overall health of whatever you're creating is there, right? Whether it's a healthy routine or whether what, you've materialized, because this is earth energy and it's the last of the internal hemisphere sides, right? So what you're doing to create this thing, right? Last thing that you want to do is make sure it's straight, it's good, right? Make sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, right? So it's an eye for detail here with Virgo. But Virgo has to, right? We worry so you don't have to, okay? So Virgo's very methodical, it's very analytical, it's meditative, right? And it's that part of Mercury that's dealing with the materials, right? So it's a little shaky, right? When Earth is moving, your ass is shaky, right? It's it can even be a little nerve-wracking when you're trying to manipulate Earth, right? Like, God damn it, this piece just won't fit. You know what I'm saying? So don't be mad at your Virgo friends. Just check on them, okay? Just know that they are trying. Some shit might be wrecking their nerves right goddamn now, okay? But they are doing it for the greater good, okay? But yeah, this is the sixth house energy. So this is where we go to refine it. So this is why Virgo's characteristics are as they are. But no matter what you have in your sixth house, this is where you're going to set up your routines. What you routinely work towards, or how you routinely work towards making things efficient for you. This is this house right here, right? And your fifth house needs that. Please believe your fifth house needs that, okay? You can go ham at creating a lot of shit, but if you can't refine it and make it useful to somebody, it's just something that you've created. It could be a blob, right? Or like, this works, but it doesn't work out for everybody, right? So your sixth house helps you to refine the energy. But once you do that, you can go into your seventh house, right? Seventh house is going to be our relationship house. Now, this is going into the external hemisphere, all right? This is where we're going, you know what? I'm going to do a second video with the external hemisphere. So look, my bad, y'all, because I don't want these to go too long. This is the internal half of the house system. We'll come back later on for the external. But if you've internally been going through your house system, you now have what you identified that you want to create, why you value it, learn what's going on in the environment that's around it, really pour it into your foundation to set it up and connect with it, right? Sometimes you have to get away and do these things privately. This may not be what people can see is happening, but you've got yourself really fundamentally set up for it to now go ham and create it and then refine it to make it useful, right? Now, if you've done that, you've done the internal aspects of your creative process, and it's now time to take it to the outside world, because teamwork really does make the dream work. Catch you guys there.